Thank you, Linda. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook's online service. I am so glad that thanks to an amazing team of behind-the-scenes tech experts, we can continue to be together virtually during this time that our sanctuary remains closed. My name is Ellen Bartley, and I am so delighted to be serving as worship associate today with our worship leader, longtime member Linda Mikell. Linda is a certified Labyrinth facilitator. She will share her journey of discovery with the Labyrinth. Linda has been a Unitarian Universalist for over 55 years and a member of this congregation for over 40 years. She heads the Ministry for Meditation and Wellness and serves as a pastoral assistant. I want to offer a special welcome to any of you who are joining us today for the first time. Our services really do vary a great deal from week to week, both in content and in style. This is true of both our online services as well as our in-person services. We hope that you will continue to join us online until we resume meeting face-to-face, at which time we hope that you will join us in our sanctuary. During the service, I invite you to light your chalice or candle when I light mine, and I encourage you to sing along with the hymns. As usual, we will leave the chat open for virtual coffee hour. This requires us to restore audio and video for each attendee individually, so please be patient for the minute or so that this will take us. We will again be holding small group chats after the coffee hour. This provides us with the opportunity for real conversation. You'll either get to catch up with folks you know or have the chance to get to know someone else a little bit better. To join the small group chat, after you say your hellos during coffee hour, please leave this meeting and go to the separate meeting for small group chats. That link is also posted on our website homepage and was included in yesterday's special news feed. Finally, please keep up with fellowship and denominational news by reading our weekly emailed news feeds, our monthly newsletter, and the updates posted on our website, UUFSB.org. Now let us enter into the sacred space of worship with the sounding of the morning bell. I will now light our chalice with these words from Emily Simpson. The labyrinth is an ancient archetype with the capacity to show us a new way of being in the world. It is a gift for uncertain times because it is that rare and precious thing, a universal symbol within which all of our perspectives can find a home.
Thank you, Ellen. And good morning, everyone. Many amazing things have come to me through the fellowship. It's been my postgraduate school doctorate for life. And actually, the Labyrinth came to me through a committee at the fellowship. It all started during the time that the Dream Team Committee was meeting monthly to plan for our new sanctuary and the new classroom edition for religious education. This was the late 90s, early 2000s. My husband, Ed, headed up the Dream Team, and I was in charge of the Interior Design Committee. Each time the architect came to meet with us, he would bring brochures to show me about flooring, fixtures, and lighting, choices we would eventually have to make. One such brochure had a picture of a design that was made with European flooring called marmoleum. This was natural linseed flooring that came in a variety of colors. The design I saw in the brochure was something I had never seen before. This captivating design was on the floor of a hospital in Canada. The caption had one word: Labyrinth. It's hard to describe my feelings as I stared at this beautiful design. I felt physically drawn to it in very special ways. As I looked at it, I said to myself, this is very meaningful and important. I had no idea at the time. I went home and Googled everything I could about Labyrinth. I discovered it was an ancient design found in many early cultures all around the world. The classic Labyrinth design was found on a rock in Sardinia. It is over 5,000 years old. They were also found on Greek coins and on American Indian baskets. Labyrinths predated Christianity. I also discovered they were part of sacred geometry and found in medieval cathedrals in Europe. In modern times, labyrinths are used for meditation by people of all religious beliefs and no religious beliefs. People found they could de-stress, get inspired, problem solve, and find answers during a labyrinth walk. I thought to myself, this might just be the perfect thing for our Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, whose congregants had beliefs that had quite a range. This would be something we could all share, and to share with our neighbors from other houses of worship and those in the community who didn't identify with any religion. In all this information, there was a course offered, a week at the Chartres Cathedral in France, studying their 800-year-old labyrinth and the construction of the cathedral. This was offered in August of 2001. Ed and I signed right up, and within 3 months we were in France, living in a building adjacent to the cathedral. When we set out for France, I felt like a scout. In my heart, I was bringing everyone in the fellowship with me. Ed and I took classes taught by an Australian architect who had just spent 11 years living at the cathedral. He took us all over. We climbed up the buttresses, held onto chains as we scampered up the roof, and carefully walked on ledges on the outside of the stained glass windows. I was breathless. Another thrill was going into the huge attic. In this picture, you can see that I am walking on the boards that cross the attic at the top of the vaults below. It's a long way down the sides, no railings. I was holding my breath the whole time. Then, the biggest thrill yet, the architect opened the trapdoor at the top of one of the vaults, and we could see directly down into the cathedral below, and we were right above the labyrinth. This week of learning and experiencing changed my life. I became aware that this ancient tool, the labyrinth, could help me and others through the rigors of modern living. I left the cathedral with many plans for the future. Our first hymn is number 168, One More Step. Peter will play an introduction, and then we will all sing 4 verses.
Thank you, Peter. We now enter into a time of meditation. People often confuse labyrinths with mazes. They are actually very different. In a maze, you have a problem to solve, how to get out. You have many decisions to make. There are dead ends, wrong turns, and it can be very frustrating. A labyrinth, on the other hand, is one continuous path. If you follow the path carefully, it will circuitously bring you to the center. Then you follow that same path out to the beginning again. The labyrinth is also a three-part meditation: the journey in, being in the middle, and the journey out. While a labyrinth is intended to be walked, there are also ways of using it in meditation without walking. In a moment, an image of a labyrinth will be displayed. This labyrinth was designed by Sidel Wiltshire and is used here with her permission. As the image is displayed, use your finger to trace the pathway that begins at the bottom of the screen, follow the pathway into the center of the labyrinth, and then back out again. While you are doing that, Dan Weymouth will play an original composition, and then Peter Winkler will bring us out of meditation with hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. Thank you. One of our spiritual practices at worship each week is to take a collection which we share with a local nonprofit agency working for social justice. The Racial Concerns Committee has decided to commit the social justice portion of our Share the Plate donations for September to the Poor People's Campaign. Building on the work begun by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., this organization is a coalition of people fighting against inequality on all levels and seeking to bring oppressed people in our society together to build power and create a just society. They work to change the narrative by speaking truth to power. Please continue to be generous with both your pledges and with our Share the Plate donations. There are several ways that you can donate during this time that we are remote. You can use the donate button on our website. You can use PayPal or a bank bill pay service, or mail a check to the fellowship. No matter how you donate, to make sure that the office properly applies your donation, please be sure to indicate where you would like the money to go, to your pledge or to the social justice partner. To do this, please use the memo line on your check or the notes section of your PayPal or bank's bill pay services. There are more detailed instructions for the Share the Plate donation in the newsfeed that was mailed yesterday. Thank you for your contributions to further the work of both our congregation and Poor People's Campaign. As you make your donation, please enjoy Linda's daughter, Jennifer Mikell, and Brett Schulman performing Teach Your Children.
Have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's hell did solely go they told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh, and know they love you. And you of tender years can't know the fears that your elders grew by, and so please help them with your youth. They see the truth before they can die. Teach your parents well, your children's hell will slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they pick, the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, so just look at them and cry, and know they love you.
Thank you, Jennifer and Brett. That trip to the Chartres Cathedral was in 2001. I was still working, but I made a 3-point plan. 1, retire in June 2003. 2, take training in San Francisco to be a Labyrinth facilitator. And 3, buy a portable canvas Labyrinth as a retirement gift to myself. For a little over 2 years, until the new sanctuary was built, we held Labyrinth walks each week on my canvas Labyrinth. Eventually, our building construction started and was completed in 2005. A permanent Labyrinth was embedded in the new part of the sanctuary with funds from wonderful congregants. Until the pandemic, we held Labyrinth walks every Thursday afternoon and once a month in the evening. These added up to over 960 walks. People from the fellowship come, and people from the community come. They are seeking the peace that the labyrinth has to offer, the peace that is so often missing in our busy world. I explain about setting an intention for the walk. You may be seeking peace or gratitude, forgiveness, problem solving, creativity. The intentions are many and varied and very personal. Your intention could be just to walk and see what emerges. During the labyrinth walk, often the small voice within bubbles up. As you step into or onto the labyrinth, you feel a change right away. Some people feel a little unbalanced at first. As you just experienced on the finger labyrinth, there are many turns. At each turn, you can pause and look at another facet of your intention, slowly peeling away until you finally arrive at the beautiful center. The center is the resting or receiving place. People stand or sit on the floor, waiting for what comes to them. Usually, there is a little kernel of something new that you might not have thought about before. As you leave the center and walk the same circuitous path out to the beginning, you prepare to come back into the real world of your life. How will you fit this new learning or new idea into your life? Even on the ride home or the next day, things might bubble up. I have witnessed composers and writers come off the labyrinth and go to their notebooks and quickly jot things down. Maybe the message is a phone call you must make, or a shift in the way you relate to someone in your life. A journey on the labyrinth is a metaphor for the journey of life. Labyrinths are found in many places in our community. Many colleges have built labyrinths to provide a peaceful place for students and faculty to pause during their busy days. This one is on the Brentwood campus of Suffolk Community College. Hospitals have built them for families who are visiting loved ones, as well as the doctors and nurses caring for the sick. This one is at Stony Brook Hospital, right down the block from our fellowship. Many cancer treatment centers have built labyrinths, and they are used for therapy during treatments. One hospital in California has a labyrinth at the entrance to the emergency room. EMTs use it to de-stress themselves after difficult runs. I am in the process of beginning to facilitate labyrinth walks at Stony Brook Hospital. I'm hoping to begin in October. I was able to do a walk in early March for the victims of domestic violence in Central Islip. The plan was for me to bring my canvas labyrinth that measures 24 feet by 24 feet. They told me they had a huge conference room that would be big enough. I asked if I could come a few days ahead of time to measure the room. People always think the room is larger than it really is. Luckily, I did this because the room was much too small. I designed a labyrinth that I could build with masking tape on the rug in the room. The women walked with soft music playing. When we met together afterwards, they told me they were so happy they came. One woman said she had never felt such peace before. This made all my efforts worthwhile. I had been invited to this group through a social worker that had been a student at Stony Brook. In one of her courses, the professor had asked me to do a labyrinth walk because he wanted to introduce the labyrinth as a venue for self-care for those social workers of the future. Teach your children well could mean giving them a tool for mindfulness, de-stressing, decompressing, anger management, and reconciliation. A labyrinth can do all that. Many schools in the Midwest and California have labyrinths. Teachers and social workers use them to help students solve their problems. When I was working as a learning specialist, most of my students, whether learning disabled or attention deficit disordered, had test anxiety. I taught them to draw a simple labyrinth on the margin of their test paper or on a piece of scrap paper. Then they could follow the path with a pencil a few times. They all reported it calmed them down and they could think more clearly about the answers on the test. The labyrinth can also be used as a tool for reconciliation. Social workers have used it in this way with students who have issues with each other. After quietly walking the labyrinth, which gives them thinking and calming down time, they meet for a session with a counselor. They are often more open to problem solving at this time. Any labyrinth can be used for reconciliation. However, there is a special reconciliation labyrinth design created by Claire Wilson in South Africa. It has been used in conferences and workshops there as they were working their way through apartheid. Two people enter on different paths, which take them on opposite sides of the labyrinth. They walk for a while, and then the path takes them to a place where they cross over into the other person's side. They walk in the other person's metaphorical shoes for a while. They both wind up in the center, where they can talk for a while and decide if they want to walk out on the same path. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have a huge reconciliation labyrinth on the troubled borders of warring countries? I love creating ritual on the labyrinth. Some members in the fellowship have requested a special labyrinth walk to commemorate a special occasion or a walk to memorialize someone. You might remember Molly Begg. She loved the labyrinth and was a major contributor to it when it was built. After she died, her family requested a memorial labyrinth walk, which her friends and relatives attended. When Max Riley, a former member, retired from his position as the superintendent of schools in Port Jefferson, his wife Mary and I planned a wonderful walk, which was attended by the Board of Education, the PTA, and members and friends. Before they walked, each person wrote a personal note to Max, reminding him of some connection they had. They placed this note in a basket when they got to the center. The basket was ceremoniously presented to Max at the end. Years ago, before joining the fellowship, Jen and Tom Snively were planning their wedding. They came to the fellowship to meet with our minister at the time, Kate Lehman. They were very intrigued by and interested in the labyrinth. When they saw it, they decided they wanted to have their wedding party walk the labyrinth with them before their rehearsal dinner. Tom and Jen were married in the sanctuary on our labyrinth. After that, Jen was one of our regular walkers. She was and still is an air traffic controller, and I always thought our labyrinth was keeping the skies over Long Island safe. After being active members of the fellowship for a few years, they subsequently moved to Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Jen has started a labyrinth ministry, and the congregation has built a beautiful labyrinth there. When we finish a labyrinth walk and everyone is gathered in a circle, I read closing words. Then I ask if anyone would like to share something that came to them on the labyrinth or an observation that they had about their walk. Often, these sharings are very deep and very personal. The labyrinth becomes a sacred space for others and too for myself. It becomes a holder for my deepest thoughts and longings. It helps me to examine in new ways a familiar issue or a block I am experiencing. It helps me pick my way through a problem. It reminds me that the answers are actually inside me. But the labyrinth gives me space and time to reflect and let the answers surface. When my husband Ed became very ill and passed away last year with lung disease, it was a frightening and confusing time. I was so lucky to be able to walk the labyrinth and sort through my feelings and the facts that were thrown at me. The labyrinth helped me to formulate questions and make plans. My walks gave me time to reflect on our wonderful life and the love we shared together. Then I would reflect on the traveling we did all over the world, his bucket list and my bucket list. And two, I was reminded that Ed had always been by my side as Labyrinth workshops took us around the country. His encouragement and support was boundless, always lending a helping hand to anyone and everyone he met. He was my Labyrinth roadie. I smile as I leave the labyrinth, feeling not a broken heart, but the gift of an open heart, filled with gratitude, peace, and love.
Let's join together in singing our closing hymn, Love Will Guide Us. Peter will play an introduction, and then we will sing all 3 verses.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you for joining me this morning. My hope is that you have perhaps found something that you could explore as a spiritual practice in your life. We have 2 wonderful labyrinths on our UUFSB property. The outdoor labyrinth is always available. Our indoor labyrinth awaits the end of the pandemic. Hoping to see you on the path.
As our service draws to a close, I will now extinguish our chalice and sound the closing bell.
May you be well and happy. May you walk in peace and know yourself to be beloved on the earth, held and blessed by all that is.